Today's episode is brought to you by Real Estate Radio Experts. Radio is the secret weapon in real estate, or maybe not so secret. But look, in a single 60-second spot, you can reach thousands, sometimes, depending on the market, hundreds of thousands of people. And these kinds of leads, radio leads, super high quality. They're basically, come list my house. Those kind of leads, the kind of leads you want. And look, radio is not as expensive as you think. It's literally a cash machine. You put $1 in, $5 gets kicked back. And our clients are having success right out of the gate. One of our clients spent $2,500, and by the end of his first month, listed 3 deals for a total of $31,000. How come that wasn't you? Look, you guys, if you want to level up, go to realestateradioexperts.com and fill out the getting started page. Or look, you can just send me an email. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go. Yeah.
Hey everybody, what is up? I hope you're having a fantastic Friday. You know, I'm in San Diego, as many of you guys know, and geez, we have not had winter here. Literally, it's like 80 degrees today, and we have the Santa Ana winds, which is like, you know, we were seeing like 40-mile-an-hour winds. So, I wish I could have some rain. Anyhow, okay, look, guys. Today's episode is pretty interesting. Now, I didn't bring somebody on that has a big mega team, and I don't know if I've told you this, but I have been very much taking a geographic approach with getting people on the show. And I'm kind of, look, I know people, you know, you hear episodes that people do 900 transactions. That's great. But you know what? If you're out there trying to do 10, you know, I got an email from the guys like, look, Toby, what if you haven't done 1? So I'm trying to get people on the show that are more representative of the markets you guys are in, as well as the businesses that you are building. So today's guest is just one guy, man. He's just a single cowboy out there wrangling real estate. His background was he managed money. And this guy was successful, man. He managed $700 million, threw it all away to build a real estate company. Here's what we talk about today. You know, why he went from Wall Street to Main Street. Why he is selling luxury and how he has penetrated that market. He's also, listen, this guy also wrote a book. He's an author. But we spend time talking about why you should build your database. And if you guys haven't started building your database, go start right now. And the next thing you guys will ask me is, well, how do I go about doing that? And we talk about that. We talk about how he went about building his database, not only of just a database, but a database of wealthy people. We talk about why you don't need a giant marketing budget to kill it, and how by doing outbound cold calls, this guy gets multi-million-dollar listings. So I hope you enjoy the show. Now, look, before we get there, last weekend I was at Keller Williams Family Reunion, which is a great event for me. It was giant, man. There was like 10,000 people there. But look, you guys know I talk with everybody and I find out what's working and what's not working. I find it from people who are doing it. And here's what I'm finding. I'm hearing that platforms like, and I'm not calling anyone out. Okay. So, but platforms like a Boomtown, platforms like a Commissions Inc., Bold Leads, whatever. I'm hearing that people that when they're paying $2,000 or more for use of those products, and I'm hearing that there's dilution happening in the marketplace, and what was working in the past is not working today. So people are throwing out $2,000, $3,000 a month for those types of accounts and products, and they're not performing. So I've been hearing this one company come up over and over again. People saying, "Hey, yeah, this company works. This company works," and but this is not a commercial for them. I'm just telling you. And so here's the company. It's TorchX. Okay, TorchX.com. Now, look, these guys are very similar to a Boomtown, a Commissions Inc., all that, but they're much more better priced. Number one, and they're different. So the people that I know that I've talked with that are using these guys, they're having great success. So right now these guys are newish, so their prices are really low just to get clients. So if you're thinking about going and getting a new website and driving organic traffic, I really would encourage you guys to talk with these with TorchX. Now, look, here's the deal. I ate dinner with the CEO. We spent some time together, and I said, "Listen, I believe in your product, but you got to give my people something." So here's the deal. Normally, they charge a $200 setup fee. He said, "For my folks, waived, done." And not only are they waiving the $200 setup fee, they're letting you try it out for a month for free. So again, if you feel like your website is a little bit stale, and geez, I've seen a ton of junky real estate websites, go talk with these guys and be sure and let them know you came from the show. All right. Hey, look, let's get to the content. Today on the show, I'm pretty thrilled, right? So I love mixing it up. I love having a guy come on with a mega team of 47, and I love talking with people who are smaller, but they're growing. Today's guest is in Naples, Florida. He is a team of one. It's himself doing the work. He has one assistant. He's pushing out today about 28 transactions. He's on track for 50 for next year, $24 million in volume. So obviously, average sales price of about $1 million. He's in the luxury end of it. I'm thrilled to welcome. You know what? I cannot believe that I don't have your name right in front of me. Introduce yourself.
Vincent Napoleon.
Vincent Napoleon. That is so crazy. I just literally said your name 30 seconds ago. Hey, Vincent, thanks for taking the time out today.
Sure.
Hey, so listen, I've given the audience a little overview of your background and what your business looks like. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself. We want to get to know who you are, and then we'll talk about your business.
Yeah, so, I spent about 16 years on the Wall Street side of the business, and then in 2003 and 4 decided to start a company and bought and built a brand, a Remax brand, actually, which I ended up selling in about 2012, and decided that for me the real money was in production, not in ownership, and decided to just do my own thing underneath my name, which is the Napoleon luxury brand.
And so you were what? Did you sell stocks? Were you a broker on Wall Street?
Yeah, I was a financial investment advisor here in Naples, Florida, and I managed a book of business of about $700 million.
Wow.
And but like all things, I wanted to move on, do something different. I wrote a book called Declaring Florida Your Domicile. And I did a lot of stand-up seminars, so people who came to town talked to them about the do's and don'ts of Florida residency. It's a big issue here, i.e., because we don't have a state tax or intangibles tax, so there's some benefits to it, including homestead exemptions and others. So that was kind of my bailiwick was seminars. That's how I built my business.
Interesting. So with that kind of tax situation. Is it a place where really wealthy people go to live and
Yeah, I would say at one point early on in Naples, high-end history, and when I say that I mean probably in the late 90s, it was known as the land of millionaires because so many millionaires were moving to Florida. It is now, a land of billionaires, and I do mean that literally. There's more billionaires per capita here than anywhere else in the country, I believe. People like Mark Cuban who were here doing their thing when they sold their business, and his partner's still here and shares office space in the same building I'm in, actually.
Wow.
So, that's our clientele. So, like my average sales, my last few sales, 3.1 million, 2.1, 1.8, 1.7, 2.4. That's the marketplace. So my transactions are not as high as others, but our average price per sale is significantly larger than the national average.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You're talking like this is almost Beverly Hills, Malibu kind of prices. So for you, Vincent, you manage this book of business of $700 million, almost $1 billion. That you did all the hard work. It was all right there. Why would you give that up and start from scratch selling real estate?
Yeah, well, the business was changing. I had annuitized that particular business,
okay.
and that, there was something called managed money, which came along, which is basically fee-based money versus the old days of, trading stocks and bonds. And to be quite honest, I found it, at that particular point, after almost 20 years, I was bored.
I got it.
And so, knowing that I was going to exit the business, that's when I started real estate, mortgage, and title companies. And when I did finally leave after my contract was over, I had a place to go, and that was, to truly be an entrepreneur and just run my own businesses.
So with that, you had to have had a crazy list. I mean, it would seem like you would come into real estate with a database of wealthy people.
Yeah, that's true. Part of that's true. The truth is that I've really spent the last, X amount of years building a database. And, I used to tell people I think data is king.
Yeah.
And, if you can build data, you're ahead of the crowd. So I do have great databases of people in the wealthiest pockets in Naples. And it's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you, I think there's a lot of people who go, a lot of people struggle with building a database, period. Now you've built a database with wealthy people, right? And that's the best kind of database you can have. How did you go about doing that? And again, we know it's all about meeting people, but how did you get yourself in a place where you did that?
Really, truly?
Yeah.
It's a simple answer. It's called country clubs.
Got it.
Country clubs and, just private clubs that, require you to gain entry. And, that's really, in the nutshell, for the highest of the highest, pockets of wealth in Naples. That's how I did it.
Yeah. So do you have to be wealthy in order to be a part of these somehow participating in these clubs?
No. I mean, you don't have to be wealthy. You just have to be creative.
So I have yeah.
I'm being a little bit elusive, but I'll just say that, with creativity and friends and a little bit of luck, you can gather data. And obviously, to use the data is one thing. You have to establish relationships and have permission to use data typically, but that's how I did it.
Well, and look, let me run this by you. And it's this. So, let's say, there's some sort of, high-end club in Naples. A lot of times the club is one piece, but the restaurant is a different piece. So many times I've found that you can go in and eat lunch at a place and not be a member and kind of hack it that way.
Yeah, hack is not a word I would use, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
There's all levels of membership, right? So there's full-on membership, there's social membership, there's associate memberships, but these various different membership levels still give you access.
Got it. And then, so for you, Vincent, I'm sorry.
And golf clubs. There's so many. I mean, Naples really is the golf capital. Now we have over 70 courses just in Collier County alone, which is our county here and where Naples is. So when you talk about that many golf courses and golf clubs, being a member of a couple of different golf clubs give you you have reciprocal membership at other places. So over time, there's ways to build that data. And obviously, when you do business with people in these neighborhoods, that's also helpful.
Yeah, right. Oh, absolutely. I agree. So, but if I'm a wealthy guy and I paid a bunch of money to play golf or be a part of this country club, my hackles would go up if you introduce, hey, I'm Vincent and I sell real estate. I mean, how did you go about doing it in a way where you didn't turn people off and at the end say, hey, can I get your name and number and I'll put you in my system or whatever?
Well, no, I'm calling as a fellow member, not just somebody who's trying to, sell somebody something. I think that, a lot of people would be put off like that. Plus the fact that, these numbers, most of these numbers, if you have the right technology, really truly are public. It's just a matter of the technology that you're using and how you're mining data.
Okay. Again, if I run through your numbers, right, the last sales that you made, 3.2, 2.8, 1 point, very expensive houses. In terms of marketing to let me ask, before I get to that, let me ask you this question. Out of your book of business today, your transactions, percentage of buyers and sellers?
I'll tell you the truth. Out of since April, let me see. I can tell you right now that it's been 70% sellers, 30% buyers.
Wow. Okay, that's where you want to be. What are you doing? Are these just coming out of your database, or what does your marketing look like in order to capture, like a $3.2 million listing in Naples?
Well, to be quite honest, I don't use much marketing at all. I have a pre-listing package that I use, and I send that ahead of a meeting, and then when I sit down with the folks for a listing presentation, I just go through the same exact presentation. I bring some comps and a CMA, and everything is scripted, and it's done time after time, and that's about it. I don't spend a ton of money on fancy advertising and marketing to try and woo people into call me. It's really truly, I think the key is outbound calls, and then any kind of repeat or referral business. That's the best business.
So when you say outbound calls, are you just calling people in your database, or are you like cold calling people?
Yeah, I do both. I'll use the database, and but mostly what I'll do is expireds. Just listeds and just solds. Keep it pretty simple. I think those things work the best. And when you have a brand new listing like I have today, a new listing of 3.4 million, I'll call into that same neighborhood and do just listed calls.
Got it.
And I think people appreciate it, and it's a way to mine a new, because typically when something goes new, you'll find that there'll be a couple more that go new soon after, and I think that's a great time to call.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you got this $3.4 million listing. You don't sound that excited, Vince. I'd be really pumped up.
Well, the exciting part of that is he also owns a golf course, and he gave us that listing as well for another 3.9. So it's a good day.
Yeah, it's a great day. It's a great day for Vince. Okay, so you get this new listing, and then do you use a company like a RedX or a LandVoice Data to get the phone numbers of the people near that house, and you go, hey, I just listed this. I just want to let you know.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I mentioned earlier. If you're using technology, depending upon the type of technology you're using, it's out there. So a lot of this stuff is public information. I don't want to sound like James Bond or anything.
Well, yeah, LandVoice Data, for example, I think is a great service, and you can literally just put in an address data set, and they have a system where that I guess mainly attorneys use, and they'll get you the phone numbers, whether it's a landline or a cell line. So who do you use for that service? Is it RedX or LandVoice? Vulcan. Interesting. I've not talked to those guys. And by the way, if anybody wants to use this, try this service, kind of follow in Vincent's footsteps, you can get a free trial of LandVoice Data using our link, landvoicedata.com/superagentslive. All right. See how I threw that affiliate link in there? Smooth.
I'm sorry?
No, nothing. So I just threw an affiliate link at the audience. Okay, so you and then what about I would think, right, if you're going to make the most of this $3.4 million listing, so you get it, you're going to call the neighbors and go, look, I just got this thing up for sale. Do you do big open houses, like big event style open houses for these, or?
No, to be quite honest, I think open houses are a waste, and so too does the client. Listen, these are astute investors. They've been around. This is not the first house they've sold. Typically, when you have one like this, you've got another one somewhere else, and I understand that open houses, the purpose of them is to find buyers, and typically those buyers are never for the property you're holding open. They're for something else. So, statistically, when I look at open houses, I think they're a waste of my time. And that's just me based upon my experience. With that said, however, I've also had the opportunity where people did come to an open house. They had no interest in that house, and as a matter of fact, that's how I got the $1.8 million sale. They did come to an open. were not interested and took them to a different neighborhood, and they ended up buying a home in that neighborhood. So I'm not saying it doesn't work, but 9 times out of 10, I just don't see it as being a good use of one's time.
Huh. I mean, I wonder.
And I personally don't sit them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You don't.
I personally don't sit them. I have a great assistant who sits the open houses, and obviously, if the people, if customers want them, we will make it happen. But I just think there's better ways to market high-end properties than open houses. And how many neighbors come in? I mean, it's mostly nosy neighbors.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. They want to see
now,
the
I do believe in calling the top 25 to 30 agents who do a ton of business, a lot more than me, and inviting them over to see the home, because those are the people who sell.
Right.
It's the old Perdido principle, right? The 80-20 rule.
Yep.
So I'll call the top 20%, because there's people that do a lot more business than I do, and I want them to know that the home is on the market, and I'd rather invite them over personally.
So, okay. I mean, I'm getting a sense of your business, Vince, and it's, I mean, you're pretty, you're like I would say if somebody coached you, it'd be like a Mike Ferry. Mike Ferry is nothing tricky. It's very, it's get in front of people, belly to belly, make the phone call, and book an appointment.
Right.
So tell the audience, you're at about 30 deals for this year. Next year, you're going to push it to 50. What's going to be different about next year? How are you going to build your? I mean, almost double your business.
Well, listen. To be really honest with you, I was always in an ownership capacity and just decided to, and then I was running a firm for a company, an international company, as their broker. And just was seeing things that I was not happy about and so really truly I went full time into the sales side just this April. So these numbers are from April till now. So I just, when I look at that and I see what I'm doing and what I've been able to put together, and prior to that, I hired a full-time assistant, shortly after that. But so when I look at the numbers and look at the systems that we're putting in place and knowing what we can do in a full year, when you extrapolate the numbers, it leads one to believe that you're going to double your production.
Got it. So you've done all this in like 5 months.
Right.
Since April. Oh, I wish you would have. Okay, that's a whole different. Okay, yeah. So you're probably going to get to more like 75 next year.
Well, I'm saying 50. And if I base everything on numbers and calls and dials and people spoken to and that sort. I mean, there's a method to the madness. So I'm saying 50.
Okay.
And I would love to exceed my own expectations.
I'm sure you're gonna. So
and those are 50 listings.
Right.
To be clear, I'm not counting buyer sales in that 50.
Now for is that something you'll even mess with? I'm sure you'll take. Would you just pass that off to someone else if it was a buyer that comes through?
Buyer side?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would use a showing agent to do that because it's a better use of time.
Yeah.
Plus, it incents them, and so there's a method to that as well. Now, if I was to receive a referral from someone, I'm currently working with a buyer who came to me, but they're a $5 to $6 million buyer.
Sure.
So of course that's something that you're going to work, and you're going to work hard, and you're going to make sure you work with them personally, right?
Absolutely.
But even that, once you have confidence in your showing agent, even that person, it can be handled by someone who's been properly trained, and that you feel, comfortable in letting them take them out. But you have to limit the amount of showings. At that level, you see 4 homes, and then it's pretty much which one,
Right. If you've done the work and you've really understood what if they're clear on what they want, right? Okay, so that changes this a little bit for me. I got to get my head right because I was thinking you've been doing this for a long time. I didn't know it was just 6 months.
Well, 6 months just purely as me selling my own, just purely just in sales,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Because you have this, I mean, your temperament, we've been on the phone for about we've been recording for 18 minutes. We've covered a lot of ground with you in 18 minutes, but your temperament, you have this very calm temperament, right? I would imagine, maybe because of your speaking days that when you walk into a room, like you can take control of the room, right? I have my sense is that you have sort of a commanding personality, or
that's what I'm told.
Okay. So because you've had this background with money, and somebody who wants to buy a $3.2 million house at all cash, right? That doesn't intimidate you. Where I think a lot of people, that's out of their wheelhouse, and they would be intimidated. Do you think your temperament and your background working with money has cleared you up to be more confident in playing with this kind of a caliber of people?
I feel comfortable there. But you need to understand, I wasn't always in that realm. I'm a poor kid from the inner city of Trenton, New Jersey, and so it's been a learning process. Even from the stockbroker, financial management days, that's something that was new to me. I was self-taught. I did it myself, and I've done this myself. So, never really had a mentor or anything like that, and I'm learning to this day. So, yeah, I do invest in a full-time coach. I do feel comfortable around money. Doesn't intimidate me, nor do, people with money. I find that the bigger deals are easier to do than the smaller ones. You spend more time with somebody doing $250,000 deal than you do somebody spending $25 million.
And why do you think? And again, I don't think everybody would have that same viewpoint as you. Many times.
Well, it's just a matter of confidence, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think the challenge with a lot of people is, or again, I've been told in the show that for the most part, the kind of house people are going to sell is the kind of house that they live in or they grew up in, because that's what they know. And when they start to go upstream to that $1 million house or $2 million house, they can't deal with it because they don't know what that clientele is like, and they're intimidated.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what to say to it. I grew up in a row home, so I certainly don't want to, sell row homes.
Right.
Otherwise there's no money in it. So, to me, I mean, I know a lot of guys in the country. They're a lot better sales guys than I am. They have teams of people. They sell 200, 250 deals a year. They're just transaction crazy. But the problem is they're in areas of the country where their average sale price is $100,000 or $150,000.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist here.
Right.
So, we have areas here in Naples where, I could spend all my time selling $350,000 or $500,000 homes. But the truth is, if I'm going to be here in a town that has, multi-million-dollar homes, why wouldn't I want to sell that one?
Right.
You can do three $3 million deals and make what most people don't make in many years.
Right.
So I would rather spend my time doing that.
So
I guess it's a question of comfort, where you want to hang your hat,
mm-hmm.
and if you don't have the confidence to deal with it or do it, start reading books that are going to teach you how to do it and feel comfortable within your own skin. Everybody's got the same ability. It's just a matter of, waking up one day and deciding this is no big deal.
Yep, I agree. So somebody like you, right? Smart guy, scrapper kid from Trenton, New Jersey. You've bought and sold businesses. Why you said you had a coach? Why does somebody like you, Vincent? Why does somebody like you need a coach?
Well, I mean, why did Michael Jordan need one?
Yeah. No.
I think it's a simple answer, right? I mean, so the greatest pros in the world, no matter how great they are at their skill, they hire coaches. Not only do they have a coach on the field, but they hire personal coaches. They've got psychologists. They've got all these people that they surround themselves. I mean, It's a Tiger Woods mentality, right?
Yep.
It's like it's the book, good to great. What's it take? Well, it takes the extra effort. And sometimes, those of us who tend to be lazy, or we lose focus. That's why you're coached.
Well, no, that's a great answer, and I think the reason why I wanted you to unpack that a bit is you can look at, for the most part, any brokerage, right? And you're going to see three groups of people. You're going to see the top 20% that are killing it, the middle 60% they're holding their own, and the bottom 20% literally taking up space. And the difference between the top 20 and the bottom 20 is that the top 20 are coached and the bottom 20 are not. And I'm often, I wanted somebody like you to answer that question, because there's a lot of people listening to this show right now that feel they don't need a coach. And I think I just wanted to, highlight that if a guy like you finds value in a coach, maybe they should consider it. Let me ask you this.
Well, yeah, Mm-hmm.
What do you get out of it? What is the aha moments, or what is the thing that you walk away with after every session that you go, man, I needed that.
I think I could sum it up in one word. For me, what it is it's accountability.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's accountability. And, and when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I grab a book and I read. I try and, keep myself focused in. I get ready for my day early in the morning. So at, 5:30 a.m., I'm reading parts of whatever it is, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, which I think is one of the all-time great reads. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, 48 Laws of Power, whatever it happens to be, and that's the one thing I've always been into, and I find it helpful. But no matter how much you read, you don't have somebody that you need to be accountable to on a weekly basis who's helping you track your numbers. I didn't reinvent this wheel. I didn't invent the wheel. I'm just jumping on one that other people do, and they do it a whole lot better than me. I'm just trying to catch up. I'm like that guy who firmly believes that no matter where you're at or what you're doing, there's more to learn, there's further to go, and that's what I'm doing. To me, this is just my journey. And ultimately, I'd love to do $100 million. There are people in my town who do $100 million.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, I have again, we talked about Rated before. I have a 29-year-old guy in DC doing $100 million. I have a guy that I work with on radio in Dallas, $200 million.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, right?
It's crazy.
But the thing is, it's all possible.
It's all possible. And listen, I had a guy on the show, Lars Hedenberg. And he does.
Yeah, I know Lars.
Yeah,
I know who he is.
And so he puts up, north of 100, and he works like 2 days a week. And I'm like, Lars, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, right? You'd love to do 100 million. Next year, you're gonna do 50, and that's gonna equate to about $50 million.
Right.
5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, 5 years. I mean, listen, I 5 years from now, I have a 10-year plan, but 5 years from now, I see myself consistently doing somewhere between 50 to 60 million a year in sales. And, I live here in Naples. I live on a road called Gordon Drive. And if anybody knows Naples, Gordon Drive is, we have homes on our street that run from $68 million on the high side, and the cheapest home for sale on my street is $4.3 million. And, so I'll just say I live in one of the cheap homes. But, ultimately, my goal is to live in one one on the other side of the street.
Right.
So, my goal is to consistently be 50, 60 million a year. I think 100 million is nice, but I also don't think it's realistic to be consistent like that. I think those are one-off numbers. I do not want to have a large, crazy team. I don't, I want it to be a manageable business that I can do with myself and 3 showing agents and 2 assistants. That's it.
Right.
And I'm convinced it can be done, and I can do it and still take off, anywhere from a month to 6 weeks a year to do what I love to do.
I mean, that's building a business, right? That's building a company. That's building something that, you have systems in place, you have your marketing in place, and everything just flows. And it doesn't fall apart when you go to Europe for 6 weeks.
Right.
Or Scotland to play golf or whatever you do. I think about that time, Vincent, when you start making that kind of dough or doing those kind of numbers, I see you getting a Ferrari and maybe doing a little racing on the weekends or something.
Yeah, I tell you what, I used to race cars. Right, as a hobby. So I've done the race car thing, shifter cart thing. I'm a motorcycle guy. I take long trips around the country on the bike, and I've had luxury cars, and so I've been fortunate in I've been through that, and in a town like this, Ferraris are no big deal. Everybody's got one,
right?
And so I mean, that's just not my motivation anymore. Yeah, really, truly, my motivation is just to attain a certain level of success by doing the numbers I want to do. And, that's what makes me happy now. I've done all the other things. I don't have a plane. I don't have a boat. I don't want those. I don't want it. I know people who do.
Of course.
It's like the best boat to own is someone else's, right?
Oh, absolutely. For sure with a boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So
real quick, this is a little off topic, and that's okay. But so you do cross country on a motorcycle. Are you BMW guy?
I owned a BMW K1200.
Yep.
And it was a great bike, and went to get another one. And what had happened was I had just come back from a trip where my brother and I rented Honda Goldwings and rode all of British Columbia, California, and somehow I ended up with a Honda.
Wow, that's
Goldwing.
amazing.
And I have one to this day, but I also still, ride dirt bikes. We have DRZs. We ride up in the Smoky Mountains, and so that's what I've got. My wife rides a Harley. I ride a Honda. Kind of weird.
That is kind of weird. Yeah, I'm a BMW guy. I have an R. I've always had an R.
Yeah, well.
78. I had a 78R, and then anyhow. I'm also, by the way.
Yeah, no, I love them, man. That K12, I loved it. So.
Yeah, I've ridden those K bikes. So okay, that's great. I mean, that's good stuff. So again, we're gonna wrap it up here, and I'm gonna ask you again because I'm going to ask you a question I don't ask everybody, and I'm curious about what you might answer with this crazy question, okay? And here it is. It's, Vincent, what's something I didn't ask you, but I should have asked you?
Yeah, geez, I don't know.
I know, Vincent. There's a nugget of wisdom in there that wants to come out, and I can't get to it. I know it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I have any wisdom other than to just stay focused. I'll give you a book that I love to read, and I read it over and over again, and it's Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and it's kind of my mantra. You know what I mean? That's the way I treat my life. Know your enemies, know your terrain, the use of spies, all these things that, the great generals since Sun Tzu use and still use today. I apply it to business, and that's my business mantra. Got it.
I love it. And there's also that's The Art of War, and there's also The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which is another great book. And listen, anybody out in the audience, if you haven't read Sun Tzu, if you haven't read, Vincent said a bunch of books earlier. All those are great books. If you haven't read them, get a free copy using our link, audibletrial.com/superagentslive. Here's my last question for you, Vincent, is do you have any personal habits that you feel have contributed to your success?
Well, again, I read. I do work out on a regular basis. I swim. I find that swimming for me is the one thing that keeps me, kind of grounded to, a good physical, mental well-being. I think it's important for us who are, kind of go-go types to make sure that we keep ourselves healthy. So really, truly, I think those are the two big things, and have a loving relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I said that was my last question, but what keeps you going? Like how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
57.
57. All right. So look, I'm 44. I mean, you're not an old guy and you're not a young guy. You're right in the middle there. What keeps a guy like you going? You live in the cheap houses, which is at about $4 million. Like, again, what keeps you going? Why do you still have that drive at 57 after doing all the stuff you've done in your life?
Yeah, I think we're just inherently born with who we are.
Just
I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't turn it off. I don't want to turn it off because I feel like when you stop, you die.
Yeah.
So, and what I love about our business is at some point, if I'm in a wheelchair and can barely get around, I could still somehow do one deal a year and make myself happy.
Yeah. You growing
up.
It's
the deals that I love. I love the deals.
I know.
It's not the money. I love doing deals.
Deal junkie. I look. I mean, I'm the same way. But do you feel like because you grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in Trenton, New Jersey, And, you know, you always looked up and you said, man, I want that. Do you think you kind of always grew up with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, a little bit going, hey, I want to prove those people wrong, or I want to make that happen?
Yeah, I was, you know, to be honest, I was probably pissed off most of my life. But, you know, it was for a good reason. I mean, you know, when you grow up and a lot of people tell you you can't, it's this thing that says, yes, I can.
Right.
And, you know, anybody can teach themselves to be, well, first of all, you educate yourself. You can be articulate. You know, you have to have a certain sense of who you are, be prideful, and also be respectful and be humble. I mean, in a town like this, trust me, man, you're humbled every day.
Right.
Because when it comes to what other people have, I'm still in the ghetto. You know?
Yeah, but you know what, man? A lot of those people, you know, who have 2 Ferraris in the driveway, you know, a lot of those people are miserable, and a lot of them are not. But a lot, you know, look, it goes back to that thing that you and I both know is that, you know, science says that anything over your happiness does not increase. Once you get to 75 grand, right? That's like it. Like once you make 100, if you make 175 grand, your level of happiness doesn't increase proportionate. So, anyhow,
no, you know, and truly, it's like when you make your first $100,000 commission, it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah. And
you want another one, but it wasn't the money; it was the fact that you were able to get it done, and now you know it's possible.
I love it. Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show. I know that I'll tell you, I always encourage my audience, if they got something out of it, to reach out and say thank you to my guest. I'll be the first one. Thanks, Vincent, for coming on. Where can people find you?
They can find me, you know, on my website, which is NaplesFloridaEstateHomes.com. That's NaplesFloridaEstateHomes.com, or they can email me at Vincent.Napoleon@gmail.com.
Awesome. And guys, everything, all this stuff will be on the show notes at Super Agents Live. Hey, Vincent, let's keep in touch. Thanks, man.
Okay, thank you.
See you, bud.
Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentration.